Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the Note Closer Show. As always, I'm Scott Carson, your host. Excited to be here today. We're really jacked up to have a very special guest on the show today. Our buddy Keith Baker from the Private Lending Podcast is joining us all the way from Houston, Texas. Buddy, what's going on?
Hey, Scott, how are you? Thanks for having me on, man. Doing really, really well today.
That's awesome, man. Glad to hear it. How's the weather down there? Nice 112 steamy degrees.
Man, I got to say the weather here sucks. But hey, the cost of living is just right. So I'll take triple digits when I have to.
Amen to that, brother. Well, I'm here still in Orlando today, prepping for this wedding this weekend and enjoying it. It's actually sunny outside. Enjoy the nice 3:00 afternoon, 20-minute shower to make it even more muggy. Yeah, I was up this morning, walked outside, felt like I had a wet blanket thrown on me as I walked out of the AC. But that's okay. That's all right. Because we're here to talk about some private lending secrets, do's, and don'ts today, right, Keith?
Well, I hope so. That's why I came here, I think.
So first of all, for those that don't know who you are, take a second to share with our Note Nation out there who Keith Baker is and what the Private Lending Podcast, the Private Lender Podcast is all about.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm a proverbial underachiever, slacker, and kind of drop out and insisted on doing things the hard way, and went and got myself a corporate job that I actually liked and am very comfortable, don't want to leave, want to pursue it, and actually have a little piece of that business. So I'm not looking to quit, but I loved real estate. I used to be a construction manager for a home builder, and I've just always enjoyed dealing with properties, land, and sometimes people. On occasion, I like dealing with people. So I found that private lending was a perfect vehicle for me to stay in the real estate investing game and be involved, still be able to network, but keep everything the status quo, keep the W-2 coming in, keep the wife happy, and it just started snowballing. And one day I was actually on vacation with the family, and I realized, if you want to be a wholesaler or a flipper or whatever, there's tons of education out there, but no one's out there telling people how to be a private lender except people who want their money. So, which is good. Most of the people I know are pretty, they have integrity and they're above board, like yourself. And that was serious. That wasn't a joke there, but most of them are. But I've noticed a lot of people get some, I don't want to say bad advice, but advice that I wouldn't agree with necessarily. So I decided to start the podcast just to put it out there, to tell the story of how I became a private lender, the mistakes that I've made, the mistakes I continue to make, and which ones I refuse to make again in the future. And that's really the whole drive behind the podcast is just to teach it and put the content out there to let people know, hey, this is a great way to invest. You don't need Wall Street. You can stay away from your Gordon Geckos. You don't need banks. If you got your money in a CD or a money market, you're not even making inflation right now. So why not do a little bit of risk mitigation and put that money into an asset that's backed by real estate, or an investment that's backed by a tangible asset, and go from there. And it's been slow and going, but it's been success here little by little, and more people are coming out of the woodwork. I had no idea you could do this. And so it's just been trying to get the word out there. Yes, you can do this. And now my ultimate goal, like pinky in the brain, I don't want to take over the world, but I want to relegate banks to only doing direct deposits and using for free, what do they call it, notaries. Yeah, that's all I want banks to do. I figured, why not keep the investment and the money between the investors and build our own little economy, so that, if you got a deal, I've got the money, bam, we can knock it out. You make your money, I make mine, and we move on to the next one. And that's kind of the idea behind the podcast. And I think I went over my 20-word intro, but I think that suffices.
Hey, that's okay, man. That is okay. That's always a big thing. I always like to, when we have people that have podcasts, kind of what's their inspiration, what's their motivation, and that's good. You give people a little bit of insight to what your show's about. So once you said something, I wanted to ask you. I did not know that. What would you say is the biggest I did not know that you've gotten from your listeners and your audience?
I can become a lender to real estate investors. That's probably the biggest one. They didn't know that. Yes, it's a business loan between two individuals, but as long as that person's not living in the house, it's very simple. There's very little, if at all, regulation behind it, and it's, as long as the documents are, I would say, legal in whatever state that you're doing business in, then there's very little barrier to entry except the knowledge or the experience that you can do it and how to do it. And so that would be the biggest one. I didn't know you could do it. The other one is people didn't realize that they could take an old 401k, put it into a self-directed IRA, and do it almost whatever they want with it. And the IRS allows it. And that's probably the second biggest one. And I'm a huge fan of self-directed IRAs, and I do the bulk of my lending out of mine and my wife's IRAs, self-directed IRAs.
That's good, man. Yeah, you got your we've known each other for a while, but we run into each other at the Quest IRA events, right?
We do quite a bit. Yeah, I can't get away from you. It seems anytime there's a Quest event, there's I know Scott's going to be there, so it's always a good time. I mean, you guys should have been at the Quest Expo before we even really got going, and we were just cutting up and having a blast. But it was a great event. It was good to see you there, and yeah, it was good to joke around a bit on stage. But it's a lot of people don't realize the power that's there at Quest and these self-directed IRA custodians, and what it's all right there at their fingertips. If they just put a little bit of effort into education, the world is open, for endless possibilities.
Yeah, that totally is true. There's so many different options out there, and private lending has been around a lot longer than banking has. That's the biggest thing. Everybody's in the paper game of lending of some sort, whether they're the ones receiving payments, which is what you want to be as a private lender, or you're on the opposite side where you're making payments out. So you've had some you had Ron LeGrand on just recently too on your podcast, right?
Recently had Ron LeGrand. Yep.
Yeah, and so what was your biggest aha or takeaway from Mr. LeGrand when it came to private lending?
He was able to condense it down. And the one thing I like about Ron, I'm not a student of Ron's, but he makes you feel like, oh yeah, it's that easy. I feel dumb. Like we tend to complicate things so much as humans. And Ron was just like, look, here you go. You borrow at this, you lend at that, and here's the difference, or whatever the deal may be. And easy, simple, don't complicate it, keep everything legal, get your documents in order, boom. And I wouldn't say it's so much of an aha as it was just refreshing to hear someone of his stature saying, look, you can walk and chew gum at the same time. It's not hard. That was
right.
That was refreshing.
Ron LeGrand is. Ron's been around for 40 plus years, probably one of the most well-known, real estate educators on kind of getting started, fixing, flipping, wholesaling. I know I got a chance early on over a decade ago to spend a lot of time around him in traveling. This is not an endorsement for him. I'm just simply saying, hey, he's a lot of great information. His book on options and wholesaling is one of the best books I've ever read to help me get rock and rolling as a new investor. And he's always a big advocate of self-directed IRAs. I know Quest is always a regular speaker out what they're doing and stuff like that. But yeah, he can be a little ornery sometimes, kind of make you feel it makes everybody feel stupid a lot of times.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I was happy I got him. I was like, that's like kind of like my first whale of an interview on the podcast. And I've only started it this year, and I've had I thought it was some pretty big names, but when I got Ron LeGrand to agree to it, I'm not going to lie. I've done enough of these, things that I don't get nervous, but when I saw, heard Ron LeGrand's voice, I was like, okay, here we go. All right. Like, don't mess it up, because this guy's taught all the teachers out there, right. All the mentors and gurus. So, yeah, it was fun though. I'm really glad, and I didn't even edit. I just put it together and put it out there as raw and as real as possible. So if you hear me fumbling over some things, it's just good old nerves,
It's good stuff. Who else are some of your bigger guests you've had on?
Mitch Stephen, a big fan of Mitch. Do some of my business partner is a student of his, so we've done some owner finance, and there's been, the Renovating Riches podcast fellas were a lot of fun. I had Stephen Kaufman from Zeus Mortgage. He's a heavy hitter here in Houston, and someone that I was really honored that he came on. He just got named one of the best CEOs in Houston from the company that Zeus Mortgage that he works for, and Zeus Trust. And I'm drawing a blank. Got Larry Gowen's going to be coming on. Eddie Speed, some of the bigger names. And then some local guys, like heavy hitters like Ray Sasser, Landon Rothstein, my partner, and Nate Hare from Quest IRA came on as well. And just, putting the word out there that, this is not only legal, but doable and easy. And so it's been, 36 episodes so far, but I try to alternate between guests and content, and I've been pleased with it so far and been getting a good response.
Cool. What's your favorite facet of private lending? What's one of the favorite things that you just get tickled pink about?
The passivity of it all. Like I'm not lazy, but once I make my decision to do the loan, to make it, I don't want to do much behind it. I just want one email a month to see where that money's. Yep, it's in the bank account or the Quest IRA account, and I'm done. I love that aspect of it. I travel like yourself. I travel quite a bit, so I'm not going to go hustle and go yell at the drywall guy on a flip. But I can loan it to an investor and say, okay, you're gonna take care of all that, and I'm gonna take my interest in my points or whatever the arrangement we have, and I'm gonna sit back. Yeah, am I going to get rich overnight? Am I going to be like Ty Lopez and have books around my Ferrari in my garage or my Lambo? No, but I'm going to, slow and steady wins the race. That's my, so I'm going to be the turtle here, and just little by little by little by little, and it opens up to joint ventures. Maybe, hey, who knows? Maybe Ty Lopez will hear this and get angry at me and want to interview me. You hear that? Coming for you.
Lambos.
Yeah. I don't even know why I have this book here. I just, whatever. I just put it right here in my Lamborghini. No offense to Ty. I just, to each his own.
All right. Don't be retracting there. Have some huevos.
I'm sorry.
Backtrack it. Look at you got your roller skates on there, man.
Look at that. I don't even know why I have this swing line. It's not even red, but hey, whatever. I got it, so.
Question for you on that, because you mentioned a couple points. We got people that are out here watching. Good morning to Jim. Good morning, Clifton. Morning, Polly, Robin, Dan, Laura. Got a bunch of people join us here on Facebook as we're doing this Facebook Live, as well as recording live for iTunes and Stitcher. So, Leah, Gerald, hey, good. Laura, what's up? Lior. One of the things you mentioned a few minutes ago about points and interest rates. So why don't we start with some basics for stuff?
Sure.
Those are listening to iTunes, kind of get their feet wet, because especially with note investing, we are using private money all the time. We're not going out and getting a loan from a traditional bank. A lot of times we'll split it up into either like a flat interest rate we're paying off for private investors, or do an equity split with a lot of things there for you. You talked about points and interest rates. Let's talk about the difference between private lending and a bank loan for the first part. Why don't we do that?
Okay. Well, I like to give an analogy where you have your banks are your lowest cost of money, right? You can go and get a 4 or 5% interest rate right now on a mortgage. I'm not sure what personal loans are, maybe around 6%, or like home equity lines of credit. They're going to be your lowest cost of money, but they're going to take the longest to get to it, right? So It might take 40 days to get that loan. On the other side of that spectrum, you have your hard money lenders, who are going to be the most expensive, but they're going to close within a week. They're going to be fast. And oftentimes they're investors and sometimes they're predators. They're looking at a deal, they want you to mess up so they can take the property. But a good hard money lender will help you through the process and help you be successful, but they're very expensive, but they're very fast. Private lenders, like I tell people, sit right in between all that. You want the speed of the hard money lender, but you want to fall somewhere in between the costs, because you certainly don't want to take as long as the conventional banks. But you're not going to be in Texas, where I do most of my lending. Usury is 18%. I will take 18% if I can get it all day, every day. But the reality is, most people are going to walk past me if I'm offering 18%. So I like to sit somewhere depending on the project, minimum 8%, and those are friend prices, brother Danny prices, so to speak, all the way up to, depending on the project, 13 or 14%, no points. But again, it depends on the project. Whether if it's a flip, it behooves me to offer some point. And a point is just 1% of the loan amount. So for simple math, if I'm loaning somebody $100,000 and I'm going to charge them 2 points for the loan, that means at closing they're going to give me $2,000, which by law I believe goes against my interest. So it goes against my usury. So let's say I do a 10% loan for 6 months and I charge 2.5 points. I get $2,500 at closing. And then I would get $5,000 over the course of that loan in interest. So that's the difference between how I look at points and interest rates, and where I like, as a private lender, we can sit, because banks they're regulated. So there's laws and there's Sarbanes-Oxley, there's the Dodd-Frank, there's all this other crap. Oh, sorry. Can I say crap on this show?
You're more than welcome to drop
okay.
a few words.
Okay. Oh, there we go. Just chipped the
See,
tea.
your mic just is like slapping you back there, like telling you need to keep it clean, I guess.
And I guess I know I need it. And the kids aren't even here. So anyway, so yeah, keep it in between the the hard money and the banks and have speed and maneuverability. And the beauty of private money is if you and I are doing a deal, it's whatever we agree upon. You might want to give me 18%, but but there's a concession on the other end, right? And it's all negotiable. Everything's negotiable. So that's why I like private lending, and where I tell people to stay kind of in that, longer term, I'll go down to 8%, like on an owner finance deal, like one of Mitch Stevens' students, but I'm going to get some points up front. But the beauty of that is, let's say I put my money to work for 3 years, I'm only getting 8%, but I don't have to go work it. I know it's out there working for me, and I'm not having to hustle and, find people like yourself or the Note Closer Show, or going to, RIAs to try to find other investments. I'll be willing to sit and take a smaller interest rate if I don't have to work the money.
Right. Exactly. I got a question here from Dan Zatowski. Hang on here. We pulled up here. See, sure. It was long. So hang on. I could cut half of it off here. All right. Come on now. We'll see. Oh, come on. I don't want to comment on that. Gotta love my screen not kicking in here. All right. We'll come to it in a second here.
All right.
So you mentioned what's a point? For those that don't know, what's a point?
The point was 1% of the loan amount. So if it's a $50,000 loan, 1% of that is what, $500? So that would be due at closing. I would charge that. Think of it as interest that's paid up front. A point is just interest that's going to be paid up front versus monthly or whatever the payment plan of the loan is going to be. So in a case like a lot of hard money lenders, they'll charge 13% and 4 points, because they're making their money on the points. They want their $4,000 up front. They've made their money. Then their private lender, who they're borrowing the money from, is going to get a percentage, or maybe 10% or 8%, and they'll take the spread. So that's how a lot of hard money lenders make their money, is getting the points up front, or 1% of the loan value at the front. And I've also done points on the back end to help people out. Say if they get a little crunch for cash. Let's say, have you ever heard of a rehab budget going overboard? You ever heard of that? Yeah.
Every rehab budget goes over.
Yeah. So, depending on the situation, I've taken a point on the backside when the loan closes out, when I'm paid off as well. But it's just a nice little tool that we lenders can use. We could also weed people out with it if you really don't want to make the loan. Well, I always tell the people I don't like the project, but you could always say, I want 5 points, and then the phone will go silent, and you won't get any loans. You won't be lending anything. But it's just part of the negotiation process and a way to get some ancillary money.
Totally. So Dan's question is, are you still responsible for usury in Texas when you don't do owner-occupied loans? Yes. Usually it should be a commercial loan, not following Dodd-Frank or CFPB. I know Memphis follows both, but most states it falls under commercial.
My understanding is it is in Texas 18%, and there's no police. Like if you and I could do a loan at 25%. What the problem with usury is, let's say I loan you money at 25%. We have a falling out. You take it to court. The judge says, "Oh, this interest rate is usurious." So he throws out, he nullifies the contract that you and I have between us. So basically, now you don't owe me any money. So I keep everything under, even if it is, the non-owner occupant, all that. I keep everything at 18% or below. A little bit of cushion. Learned that from our good friends at Quest, just to be on the safe side, and to stay on the good side of the law. That's why a lot of credit cards are in North Dakota, because North Dakota usury is in the 20s or 30s. I can't remember.
Yeah, 25 roughly percent, something like that.
About 25%. So they're domiciled in North Dakota, so they can just charge ungodly amounts of interest on credit cards and unsecured debt. So, but yeah, I would even if my understanding of the law is, you got to hold hold under the usury, and that's just I think it's just good practice to do so.
Mm-hmm. Now you see a lot of hard money lenders out there that they're reaching out to private lenders, right?
Yes.
You're giving private lenders to give them the money at a lower interest rate, 8, 10, 12%. And they're taking out there and lending that money out at 12 to 15. So they're making a difference in the interest rate on a monthly basis, but they're also then charging the points is where they're making their money, right?
Yeah, correct.
And a lot of the hard money lenders are doing short-term loans, 6 month, 12 months loans.
Yep.
That's about as, if you got to renew for another 6 months or a year, you're paying some more points to renew, right? 2 to 3 points to renew, right?
Generally speaking. So,
yep. You are seeing and I don't want to give away anything, but are all private lenders looking for 12% on their money?
You'd be surprised. It depends on Several factors, and really it boils down to their risk tolerance. You certainly have people that see, oh, I can get 18%, and they just, they see usury and they think they can go get 18%, and they want to get as much money as they can. Other lenders are, look, I don't want to fuss with this. I'm old. You do the work. You put it. Give me the first position lien on the property, which is very key and something I like to espouse and to teach. Always get a first position. If you're new, stay far away from second positions until you get your feet wet. But get that first position lien. So basically what that means is after the federal and county government, the local taxing authorities, IRS have their say, you're the next in line with that lien, or you have to, in the foreclosure if they don't pay. So that's the whole key to private lending, is getting that first position lien to secure your investment. But back to actually, crap, I just blanked out, man. I had a high school moment. And what was the question?
You I like it. If you're going to be lending your own money, I like to be in the first lien position. There are lenders out there, though. They're lending on second lien positions, or mezzanine financing, as they call it, where they're helping people with a budget. Maybe they got a traditional loan for the first, and they're coming in with a private second to help with the repair cost, because they know that the appraised value, once it's repaired, is going to be a lot higher, and go from there, right?
Yeah, and that's a little more sophisticated. Risky. Yeah, well, risky. Yeah, definitely a lot more risky, and it's a lot more sophisticated. I don't like it on single family myself. I've done some of that I have done on a single family, and I've been able to live to tell you not to do it. Fortunately, it worked out for me, but it was touch and go. I was sweating a little bit there, but I've done some small commercial mezzanine on small commercial, and I was more comfortable with the project, and I felt, whether or not I really was, I felt more secure with the project and the investment, the team of investors that were putting everything together, where they had the owner financing was not an option. The seller wanted out cash. So they went and got the bank money, and then we came back in, put some basically some rehab funds to get the curb appeal up and going, and then the rents started coming in. So it was a little different with commercial, but with single family, yeah, stay away from the second position until you're. I tell people to stay away, but I'm guilty. I've done it here and there.
Well, but if there's some, if there's a lot of equity behind you. You're in a good value. That's just an example. If you can make sure that the first is performing, that's a big thing too. Never invest a second behind a non-performing first, right?
Right, and know who owns that first, and have an agreement with them in writing. Look, if they default on you, allow me the right to step in and take over their position, so that I can go ahead and foreclose, and I'm going to take over the note that they have with the first lien holder, rather than, okay, lien holder number one, I'm going to cash out, and lien holder number two, sorry, there's nothing left for you.
Yeah, taking over that first on a subject to basis.
Exactly. Yeah, and if they allow that and agree to it in writing, notarized, and I will definitely consider it. But anyone who's if you're sitting out there thinking, hey, maybe I want to go open a Quest IRA account, anytime you hear second, just run for a little while, for a year, just run away from second position liens. That'd be my advice.
I'll pay you for that later.
Fair enough.
Well, but the thing is, there's a lot of people that look at the seconds game, but they're just not seeing a lot of seconds out there for the most part, right? We just don't. A lot has been created over the last 10 years on the traditional financing side. It's been mostly first, not like it was 10 years ago, where you had, for every 5 to 10 first grade, you had 1 or 2 seconds. But you don't see a lot of that stuff now. Most of the guys want to be in a first lien position, so if they have to lend it as mezzanine, they're almost willing to go ahead and pay off that underlying first to make it a larger first lien, right?
We do see that, yeah, exactly. Let me go ahead and just take over the whole thing and have one position on it. I know people like you have that kind of money. I myself don't, so I tend not to do that. But but yeah, it's the beauty of private lending is you can. I guess you can get as creative as you want, or you can be as steadfast and as conservative as you want, and you can have success with both tactics. It really depends on you, the lender and the investor, and what they can both live with.
So let's talk about this. What are some tips you would give to people talking to new private lenders?
Tips for people talking to new private lenders: don't ask them for money right off the bat. That is one of the. I put the sign up, or I wear my shirt, and automatically people think, well, what are my rates? What do I charge? Well, what's the project? Who are you? What have you done? So don't ask for money right away. Build a relationship. Start talking to them. Talk about their kids. Talk about whatever. They're to pay if it's bad, whatever. Talk, just get going with them, talk with them, build a rapport, let them know about your business. If you're an investor, this is what I do. If you have not done any loans or haven't done any projects, no notes, no flips, nothing, don't ask a private lender. Go to a hard money lender, get a reputation, get a repertoire, get a portfolio of the work that you are capable of doing. And, basically show, so that way you can go to a private lender and show them, look, this is in my wheelhouse. I've flipped 8 houses between, ARV or after repaired value between 130 and 160. I'm very comfortable with this. Here are my crews, and lay everything out. Just don't come up to people and start asking for money. I've only done it a couple of times at a bar, just walk up to a chick and just start flirting. And, it doesn't always happen. It does, sometimes it does. And that might not be a good thing.
Is your wife home?
No, I can talk about this all I want right now. She's not here. My daughter is though. Hold on. No, I'm kidding. But no, you just don't come out, real estate's not so much about properties and land. It's about people, and private lenders are no different. And before I lend to somebody, I want to know who they are, what, it goes back to something that Gary Vaynerchuk talks about when you hire, skills can be taught, but culture and drive can't. So, you want to find an investor as a private lender, or let's say as a real estate investor, you want to find a private lender that you jive with, you have some similar values. And so you can make that private lender comfortable knowing, like, if something really goes wrong, that investor is going to cut their throat to make the private lender whole. Because if somebody does that with my money, I will lend to them again and again, because I have that sense of, or that investor has a sense of duty and care to my money. And someone who cares for my money as much as I do is going to be able to get it time and time again. So that would be the first thing I'd say.
Yeah, you're going to rinse and repeat and take care of them again and again, as long as you take care of your investors in a proper fashion.
It's, I'm gonna go a little off color here, but it's true. It's an analogy that's true. There's, the young bull and the old bull sitting up on top of the hill, and there's all these cows in the valley. And the young bull looks at the old bull and goes, "Hey, let's run down there and go have fun with a couple of those cows." And the old bull just laughs at him and goes, "Why don't we walk down there and have fun with all of them?" And that's pretty much the same thing. You just take care of one at a time, and you're going to get repeat business. People are going to come to you. If you're a lender and you say, "Yeah, I can close within a week," and you close within 7 days, time after time, you're going to have a reputation of being someone who stands up to their word and provides what they say they're going to say or what they're going to do. And the same thing on the investment side. All investors are going to run into trouble, but if you take care of your lender, that money will be there the next time for the next deal. You don't have to go shopping around for somebody. So that's the philosophy I like to espouse.
That's a great one. What would you recommend for somebody who flakes on you and then comes back to you? As a lender?
A lender who flakes out?
Yeah.
And doesn't close? Well, you just move on. I mean, look, excuses are like buttholes. Everyone's got one. And so, unless there was like some really extenuating circumstances, and look, things happen. Banks mess up, lawyers mess up, IRA custodians, not Quest, but other ones take forever. They can lose deals. Things do happen. So I would look at it on a case by case basis, but unless there's like, a cancer diagnosis or something like major, then as a borrower, I would just take that person off my lender list and move on and try to find someone who can perform as they promise.
Exactly. And that's the biggest thing. A lot of people, especially brand new people, they start talking to their friends and family and they see somebody's got $5,000 or $10,000 or $15,000 and they get excited. And I'm like, well, you can't really do a lot with those small amounts, right? You don't want to pool them together because that's illegal to pool funds.
Well, it depends on how you do it, but yeah.
Yeah.
As the investor, you're correct. You're absolutely correct. Yeah.
Right. So the thing is, keep out and keep talking to people. So let's talk about how one of the best ways that you've found, or as you talk to people, the best way to find private investors out there.
RIA meetings, meetups, Quest IRA events. I mean, there's every major city, every major MSA is going to have something going on pretty much every night of the week to where you can go find private lenders. And, like I said, start talking to them first. Don't ask for money right away. A couple of times. It doesn't take long, and one way to get a lender interested into you is to be interested in that lender. talk to that lender, find out what they're doing. Then it's reciprocated, and you close that gap pretty quickly on, okay, maybe we can do something here. And then, I just, there's take them to coffee, just talk to them, shake their hand, look them in the eye, give them a text or a call or two, and then just start working that way towards borrowing money.
All about building rapport. Yep. And the question, really the first question I've always found too, is that investors aren't worried about their interest rate. It's not the first thing. It's whether they like you and trust you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's the first thing.
No like and trust. That's the KLT. That's it's the most important, especially I think on what we do with the private lending is no like and trust. Very important.
But yeah, if you don't have to report, people don't like it. And this is the beautiful thing about real estate investing. If you don't like somebody, don't work with them.
Right? You don't have to. Yeah. That wholesaler charges too much. Then get off his list. Unsubscribe. It's easy. You don't have to. Yeah. It's your choice. And that's
I call it the whole PITA clause. If you get a pain in the ass investor, PITA, and they're you got a bad feeling in your gut, just walk away. Just say, listen, I don't think we're a fit, and walk away. And have the whole next mentality. You know what I mean?
And there's nothing wrong. And one of the things I think one of the biggest mistakes people make when it comes to investing and lending is they don't say no. That for whatever reason they're afraid. Maybe they want a deal so bad, or they get emotionally involved with the structure of a deal or something, and they just won't say no. When a lot of times it's like, if you just got that out, your life gets so much easier, and you're open and receptive to the next deal.
Right.
So just have the ability to say no. And and I always say that the lawyers always tell me not to say this, but go with your gut. If everything looks good on paper, but you think the guy's a charlatan, go with your gut.
Yeah. You don't have to say, listen, I don't think we're a fit. But let's talk about let's say you feel good about the person. Let's talk about some of the things as far as a deal proof. I see people that just throw up numbers. Like if you go to a RIA club meeting, you see somebody get up to the front of the room and they talk about a deal, but they don't give numbers. They don't give specifics. They don't give I call it the BAM to really attract the private investors. What makes the deal attractive for somebody to fund that deal, right?
What makes it attractive? They need to, it's all steak and no sizzle. And I wouldn't harp too much on the deal. Show them the basics of the deal. Show them some basic numbers. Pull up a comp or two. I mean, you don't have to have a full market analysis or a broker price opinion, but just bring up a couple of things to say, look, this justifies my numbers. This justifies where we are. I can give you more information. Get up, talk about your process. There's three things in private lending. First, I want to look at the person before I even look at the property. So it's the person I look at first. Then I want to look at their process, right? Is this guy a landlord who's wanting to start in a flip? Has this guy done 30 flips? What's his process, and what is his normal process, and what is he doing or she doing on this project? And then if those two tests are passed, then I'll look at the property and the deal and say, okay, I think your rehab budget's, well, it's always under, but you can comment on those things and analyze it and move on forward. But just showing up with somebody, showing up at a RIA, you got to deal a minute. Just say, hey, look, this is who I am. This is what I do. This is why I deserve to be up here. And this is, here's the deal. And this is how the numbers are supported. Those that handful of things, and then let the cards fall where they may. Go have your conversations afterwards over coffee or donuts or whatever, and then cultivate the relationship that way.
Right. If you're brand new too, I would rely definitely on the process and then your vendors. If you're not the person you don't want to be the guy that's working a 60-hour-week job and say, I'm going to go flip this property effectively, because we know that's not going to happen. Who are your vendors? What's their experience?
Yeah.
If you're part of a group or a club, like what's one of the things we focus on with our Note Mastermind group? It's like, listen, if you're brand new, you're not alone. Share the fact that you got 80 people that you hang out with on a regular basis. They're there to support you and to back you up and help you with things, plus your attorneys, your servicers, and that kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
Right. Absolutely. And that's key, because that's a good point, because that person's team is, is part of their process, is part of them and their process actually is, are they going to Craigslist for tile contractors or roofers, or, where, or have they, I like to, and I always tell people, if you're starting off, don't loan to a whale in your market. Like for example, Ray Sasser, who I had on the show, we call him the encyclopedia of Houston real estate because he's been doing it since the early 80s. And he takes a very engineering mindset to like everything. And I told people, I said, look, go loan Ray your money. You're not going to go make 14% because Ray can command a very low interest rate, but Ray Sasser's using your money. And Ray Sasser can tell you what's going on and you can learn, right? So you're loaning him money, you're making money, but he's now mentoring you on the process of what he does. And that nowhere else are you going to find that except in private lending. That's
the beauty of it, is it opens up some doors for you.
Absolutely.
Plus it's not as difficult as most people make it out to be. You know what I mean? You know, if you're lending on investment properties, you've got a lot of flexibility, stuff like that. If you're doing like once in a blue moon, great. If you're going to get in a habit of lending out money on a regular basis, you're going to definitely want to talk to to some attorneys to get this stuff set up. But make sure your paperwork's good. Always have people review it. That's the big thing about it. If you see people that are doing private lenders or that are doing lend stuff a lot of times, have somebody look at your paperwork. Make sure it looks good to begin with. You know what I mean? Make sure it's not written on a napkin.
It's like I've never been a huge fan of lawyers until I became a private lender. Seriously, because I'm like, all you do is recycle your documents and blah blah blah. Why can't I do the same thing? Well, ask me why I don't recycle my documents anymore. I know why, because I screwed up. I was like, yeah, we'll just cut this name out, put this address down, and nope, have somebody, and the borrower is going to pay your attorney fees anyway. So make sure it's your attorney on your documents with your best interest. First and foremost, because the title company attorney doesn't work for you. He works for the title company. All right. So always have your attorney, as the lender, have your attorney draft your documents and with your best interest in mind.
Right. Exactly. For those of you that are out there watching this live on Facebook Live, what questions do you have for the man, the myth, the private lending legend, Mr. Keith Baker from Houston there?
I look better in person, by the way. I don't know if anyone out there can tell, but
we'll make you famous, baby. We'll make you famous.
Hey, that's what I'm talking about.
What is Jason? We're good. We're both good friends of Jason Bible. Jason's Bible talking about how he's gotten into the lending business by taking over and buying some bad loans from private lenders.
Yes.
And going that route and taking things like that. Because that's why it's important to keep some things in mind. If you're going to be a private lender, you probably don't want to be lending more than 65-70 cents combined. That's the high point.
Yeah. Friend prices there. Yeah.
I would rather be at 60. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. 65. If if you're a Ray Sasser or Jason Bible, I'll definitely do 65, maybe 67 all day. But again, it depends on the project. If this is going to be a rental home, then my ARV and my my loan to value is probably going to shift a little. If it's a flip, and let's say we're doing a flip right now, for example, in 2018, market's been on a heck of a run. I'd like to see that LTV a nice conservative 65%, because if the market does change tomorrow, there's enough room for a quick retail sale. The investor still makes their money. I still get paid, and we're still friends for the next one.
Yeah. And also making sure you're named as the lender, the mortgage company on the insurance too, in case Hurricane Harvey rolls through, right? Too.
Absolutely. Oh, you heard about Hurricane Harvey, did you?
Yeah. The hurricane effect. Gerald Grant asked a question. What are the documents? What documents do you need to be private?
Good question. Should have covered that. So basically in Texas, we're a deed of trust state. So you get three documents. You'll get the deed of trust, which says, okay, that's your lien as the lender. That's going to secure your lien. That's filed at the county courthouse. So you want the deed of trust saying $100,000 is being loaned from Keith Baker's IRA to Scott Carson for this project. This interest, these terms, first, lien, et cetera, et cetera. Then there's a promissory note behind it, which just says, I, Scott Carson, promise to pay Keith Baker's IRA X amount of money on the first of every month for X amount of years. And then there's going to be the transfer from the seller to the new buyer, which would be some type of warranty deed, general warranty deed, or a special warranty deed. And I like to have those drafted with from my attorney as well. I guess technically you don't necessarily have to, but if your attorney is doing the promissory note and the deed of trust, you might as well have them do the warranty deed as well.
Mm-hmm. Good points. Now, in a note transaction with us lending on notes, there's often a assignment of mortgage in place of the deed of trust.
Correct. Yeah.
So that's the thing, is assignment of mortgage is what gets recorded to the county that transfers the ownership. Because you can't do a deed of trust because there's still a borrower in the house. But if you're lending on a note deal, that's where you have that going. Even if the assignment assigned, say, if Keith is lending me money for a note deal, I can put him on the assignment and say 50% interest to Keith Baker IRA, Quest IRA for the benefit of Keith Baker, 50% interest to my LLC. That way I can make the decisions on foreclosing and things like that. And Keith's IRA is still protected as the lien holder on it as well too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's I was talking about new purchases, I should say, or purchases of the property.
Traditional property deals and stuff like that.
Yeah. Notes are a little different, but the principle's the same.
Exactly. And it's what's funny too, Keith, is I talk to hard money lenders all day long. I'm like, hey, you guys are making loans on properties. Why not fund some note deals where you're in the same situation? They're like, huh? We don't get that. Like,
yeah. And I'm sitting there like, look, paper. Your deed of trust, I can sign it over, or the promissory note. I mean, I can sign it over, and now that's a legal document. Transferring that promissory note to somebody else, or I can sell it. I can buy it. I can sell it at a discount, or which I don't know why anybody would ever do. But hey, some people, to each his own. And that's the beauty of lending. You make a loan and you get in a bind. Well, you can go sell that note. Mm-hmm. Banks do it. Obviously, banks do it to you all the time. And chunks of loans, but nonetheless, it's a great concept, and I can't believe that few people really know about it. I mean, and you spearheading it. I think it's great.
Well, the power of paper is real. I mean, the pen is mightier than the sword or the hammer, as I like to say.
Yes, it is.
Exactly. The beautiful thing too, guys, is that when you're lending on something that's 60% of value, that gives you a lot of flexibility, so that if you've got to foreclose, you can still have some equity there. You can still make your money back. And if you've got to dump the note relatively quickly to another investor, great, you can do that. You've got to foreclose. You got plenty of room there after attorney fees and any fix-up costs, hopefully. The thing to keep in mind more so than anything else is just talk it out. Just talk what's going on and bring up, and it's good if you're the private lender and you're brand new, or if you're brand new, don't shy away from the what ifs. Okay?
No.
Because there's always what if this happens, or what if this happens? Just talk about that. Well, if Harvey shows up, we've got insurance on the property. We're going to insure it at this. If we need a little bit more, we've got extra room. My numbers might be a little low, but I still got a lot of on the back end. I want to under promise and over deliver, right? Not over promise and then under. No, I wanted to under promise and then over deliver, not over promise and under deliver, which happens quite a bit though too, right?
Correct. And that's it goes back to the rapport, but just communicate with your lender. Look, I said everybody runs into problems, and the worst. I have one 6-month rehab flip, made a loan. It was out of town, and I normally tell people go by, touch it, say it, taste it, smell it, get on the property, make sure that there's a house on the that you're loaning on. I didn't because again, I did it for a friend, so I was on a business trip. Run by, I'm gonna go run by the house real quick, see where it's at. 5.5 months in, not one thing has been done to the house.
Ooh.
Hey, yeah, I'm going to need some more time. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to need my money back because, my understanding was this was going to happen, so on and so forth. You didn't communicate anything with me. And now I'm having to chase. You see, I get very lazy as a lender. Don't make me chase. Don't make me get off my couch. Okay. If I have to do that, I'm not going to be very happy because that means something's going to have to happen. And if you do get into a bind as a flipper, rehab, or whatever, just do yourself a favor and just hand the keys over. Do a deed in lieu.
Communicate it, but come up with a solution. Hey, I'm sorry that the permits are dragging on. Here's what we're focused on. Just have a solution more so than anything else, right?
Have a solution, and if you do get in a bind, don't make me foreclose. Don't make me go pay a lawyer to foreclose, because that's just going to make me, I like to let the borrower pay the lawyer, I don't want to pay the lawyer. So if I have to write a lawyer a check, I'm not happy. I get a little crabby about that. So, but like you said, permits are a prime example. Cities, municipalities, counties hold things up all the time, and there's nothing you can do about it. But as a lender, that going in, and as an investor, you just communicate that back and say, look, we've got a 2-week delay, but I'm going to have these subcontractors in at the same time because they can, we can shorten down that rehab time frame or whatever the case may be. Or, hey, what, I've hit a wall. I'm sorry. I've got some personal problems. Here are the keys. I'm going to deed everything back to you and walk away. And I would, if somebody did that, I would loan to them again. You know, if they're going to be like, look, I messed up or this happened, I can't do it. Here you go. God bless you. Fine. But don't go 5.5 months, not do anything on the house. And then, you know, it's like, hey, what? Are you going to do something here? Or do I gotta get a lawyer involved? Cause you know, I really don't want to. I don't want to give the lawyers money, but I will, you know. So.
Right. Exactly there for you. We see some people out there join us there. Laura's asking, so you mentioned earlier on, like fix and flip is a short-term process. And some people get bent on shit when they hear 12%. What? 12% when I go to the bank and get 6%? Well, then go to the bank and get 6%. Yep. If you can't get it, then 12%, honestly, 12% on a short-term project, if you figure it's $100,000 loan, you're paying 12%, that's $12,000. You should hopefully, if it takes you 6 months, that's $6,000. Exactly. Hopefully you've got 30% of 40 grand in profit on the back end. That's not that too big a deal, right?
It all comes down to a cost of doing business. You're going to pay for it. You're going to pay. If you go to a bank, you're going to pay with time and hassle, right? If you go to a private lender or a hard money lender, you're going to pay points and huge interest. Private, a little. So like I said, somewhere in between. So it's really just a cost of doing business, because that private lender, I could have that. Let's say if it's $100,000 on a 6-month note, you turn around and if you, like you said, if you got $30,000 coming to you in gross profit after the sale, or say 35, $6,000, now you're down to 29, right? So if you do that twice, you're at $58,000, right? And you know, I get it, 12%. Oh, that seems like a lot, but hey, guess what? It's a cost of doing business. That permit costs money, right? Getting the lights, you had to pay closing costs, most likely. You know, it's a cost of doing business. And if it means that the money's there and available, I think you need to work that in. I would put 15%. The cost of money would be at 15% in my numbers, just to be on the safe side. So if I did find somebody with, you know, at 11%, okay, it's a little bit of a bonus. It gives you a little bit of cushion. But if the money's there, you know, look, I get it. You know, we're trained to, oh, that's too much, I can't pay. But if you can go make $50,000 on a flip, or buy a note and turn around and get rid of it for $50,000, and you know, I'm not going to do it because it's going to cost me $8,000, and I think I should only pay $6,000. Wrong. I'm jumping all over that. You know, and it's just mindset, I think. And it's you know, real estate investors are notoriously cheap. Just ask my wife. I mean, she'll tell you all day long about how cheap I am. So, I mean, but there's a give and take. There's a point where you got to say, okay, look, this is a cost of doing business. Plain and simple. Exactly.
Well, hey, I want to say thank you for coming to the end of our hour here for the most part. What's the best way for people to get a hold of you, Keith?
You can go to privatelenderpodcast.com. You can listen to the shows there. There's links to iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud. And then you can just email me, Keith@privatelenderpodcast.com. The show comes out every Monday. And like I said, I even got drunk on one episode, and I was, you know, telling people, hey, look, it's a beautiful day in May. We actually had a spring in Houston this year, so I celebrated. I couldn't believe we had a spring day. So, but, you know, and I go on occasional rants, but it's all regarding private lending, general real estate investing. And it's all aimed at just keeping people safe and keeping them in the game. So privatelenderpodcast.com, come and listen. And of course, you know, and seriously, if you have questions, email me. I try to answer them on the podcast, and I also answer them via email, because this is such a wonderful, wonderful vehicle that we have for investing with notes and real estate. And I want to get the word out there. And again, no more banks, no more Wall Street.
What's been your biggest aha or learning thing as a podcaster? I'd like to know that.
Good question. That's you threw me a little curveball there, Scott.
I threw you a curveball there. Yeah, exactly.
My biggest aha is it is just as hard and nowhere near as hard as I thought. And I know, and that's a very vague answer, and yes, I am stalling for time, but let me unpack that a little bit for you. It was, yeah, I got a mentor when I decided to do the podcast, because I knew nothing about it. I've always joked that I have the face for radio. So I did Toastmasters to try to years ago to cut out my ums and ahs and whatnot. And really it's just keep pushing through. Like, you know, everyone talks about pod fade. You get about 3 months in, and then you're like, oh, I don't have any content. I don't know what to produce anymore. And the biggest aha for me was it's just perseverance. just get through that. And then it just rolls, and then little by little, like I'm sitting there looking at my numbers, like, oh, 3 people listened today. Great. And then, oh, look, 6, and then the last 30 days, 1,000 people, like 1,000 people, and it just keeps little by little. And I'm not really wasn't promoting, really a whole lot. So just imagine if I like put it out there and more, like what I could do. So that was really I feel like I'm getting an MBA in pirate radio almost.
Well,
it's been a lot of fun.
We're all airwave pirates is a great way to look at it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it really are. I mean, it's just, we're not breaking any FCC regulations or any rules. So it's been great. And a podcast movement where I caught up with you there. That was I guess I didn't, my biggest aha, I guess, I didn't realize just the power of this platform. And like, we are still in the infancy, I think, of where it's really going to go. So I'm excited about it. I don't pretend to, I'm not going to tell you, listen to my podcast because it's the best, but it's honest. Like I said, I was even drunk one episode. So, and if I'm pissed, I'll let you know too, Don't
listen, you should go back and record a information. Please do not listen. Any advice given on this episode is done by a drunk man. So be careful on what you hear.
Yeah. Any advice, you take any advice, you do it at your own risk. And I will claim ignorance and maker's mark.
All right. Well, now you know what to send him, guys and gals out there. Maker's mark for Mr. Keith Baker out there.
If we're gonna do that, I'd do like a Glenfiddich 21. But anyway,
careful. My audience is good. I have bottles of Crown Royal that show up all the time in the office, or Cuban cigars too.
Really? Oh well, I think you and I need to hang out a little more, Mr. Carson. But Scott Nels,
Austin, huh?
Yeah, I'll be there soon. But I do want to thank you for having me on it. I've been looking forward to this, and I really do appreciate it. I like what you're doing out there, and I'm honored to come on and talk about the Private Lender Podcast. So thank you very much for that.
Hey, no problem, Keith. Love what you're doing. Love the show, guys. Like you said, you can check them out on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, all that good stuff at the Private Lender Podcast, or you can find them online at privatelenderpodcast.com. Once again, his email is keith@privatelenderpodcast.com. So check him out, drop an email if questions. Trust me, I guarantee he encourages questions because it often leads to good episodes from some of the best questions out there for people. So absolutely. So, okay, bud, enjoy your day at home there in the nice air-conditioned realm of Houstonian. All right.
Yes, I will not be going outside at all. We're only at 86% humidity today, so I might go out. We'll see.
It's not quite the armpit, but it pretty much is. So
it's a little bit lower than the armpit, I think.
Exactly. All right, man. Well, hey, you go out and have a great day, bud. Thanks for joining us on here.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And we'll talk to you later, all right?
All right, man. Take care.
Thanks, bud. All right, guys. Hey, that's going to wrap it up for episode 340 of the Note Closer Show. Hard to believe we already got that many episodes in the tank of last year plus. I think it's that's actually episode 190 of the podcast. So, guys, check them out. Check out the podcast. Listen to it. Download it. Feel free to share it. Always love having people on that have great content besides me because it's a great way to add value to your business and your real estate education as well out there. So go out, make something happen, everybody. And we look forward to seeing you all at the top. Bye.